WRKS Pickens Jackson.
Are you ready?
Yes! Now live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
You
are listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
Whoa. Good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The Mac Hike Ford caller line, 601-707-3750. Driven by your next Ford Bronco, Ford Explorer. Mac Hike Ford, I-55 North in Jackson. Holy Mary old Zab. What a weekend. What a week we have ahead of us. College football playoff rankings, presidential election, missile tatas, all kinds of crazy things going on.
What a week.
Let's go. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Got Jackson Meadows with me. Show is brought to you by Kessler Prime and the Renaissance. Amazing steaks, 6 private dining rooms, KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Whoa. Jackson Saints aren't any good. Lose to the Carolina Panthers. The Cowboys are god-awful. Dak got hurt, hamstring, and I think he cut his hand. They went for, I thought Mike McCarthy was pretty awesome, the fake punt call. He thought that his punter was going to be able to throw a... No, I'm serious.
No.
Seriously. It wasn't 4th and 1, by the way. I mean, back shoulder throw?
What's he doing?
Anthony Richardson can't make that throw.
No.
Among others in the NFL. Back shoulder throw from the punter. It was, it looked like 8th grade football. It did.
Yeah.
It did. It looked like 8th grade football. And so.
At what point is that right? Does that enter your head as this is the right call?
I don't know. Leave your offense out there and see if Dak and CD can get it. You don't have anybody else around them. And by the way, Zeke Elliott didn't make the trip. He was punished because he had been late to meetings all year. And, this is the NFL, okay? This isn't college football where they let that stuff go. This is the NFL. Mike Tomlin cuts you, period, end of discussion with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Harbaugh and Tomlin cut you. It does not matter who. They don't care who you are. They don't care who your parents are. They don't care where you played football. They cut you in the NFL. You've talked to players. I've talked to a million of them about how ruthless it is. Todd Wade has told me stories unbelievable. If you roll your ankle and they've got somebody, you're gone. See ya.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, but and they're. And it's bam bam. They kind of did that scene in Moneyball where they were cutting players. They sit you down. Hey, we appreciate it. We're going to have to let you go. And they get up and start moving to the next thing.
Yeah.
Zeke Elliott had been late, and then threw a fit. He didn't make the trip. Now, I know he's averaging 1.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Should have never been brought back, and they took him over Derrick Henry, which makes perfect sense, kind of like the fake punt. This is when you know that you're not a serious organization. When you bring Zeke Elliott back, and then you just don't let him make the trip instead of cutting him, which you should have.
Yeah.
You're paying him a few $1 million, which is nothing.
Caught him.
I don't even know what it is. $4 million? It's like $40 to you and I. That's what it is. But yeah, the Saints lost to the Carolina Panthers.
Trying to get a draft pick.
Saints outgained the Panthers by 150 plus yards, ran for 150 plus yards, and won the turnover battle. Over the last 20 years, teams have gone 275-0 with that formula. But today, now 275-1. Congratulations to the New Orleans Saints. 23-22. Carolina over New Orleans. So now New Orleans is going to give a run for the number one pick.
Should.
Patriots, Panthers, New Orleans, a couple other teams.
Let's go. Yeah, you might as well. Now, if they get out there and they take Shadur, I'm going to be real upset.
Why? He's good.
He's not that good.
I'm good, Bo Bow. I'm good, Bo Bow. I'm good, Bo Bow.
Well, here's the deal.
Salt kill smells, not players.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Indiana's undefeated. Oregon's undefeated. Miami comes back. What they did to Duke after Duke hung around for a while should have been illegal. BYU's undefeated. We've got college football playoff elimination games this weekend. Georgia at Ole Miss, Bama at LSU, among others. Clemson decided to lose. Indiana won. How about this?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
If for those of you that are young out there, if you don't walk in to interviews walking out of school and drop that to whoever's interviewing you, you don't want the job.
No.
I mean, that it's this should be taught in every business school, engineering school, communication school, you name it.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
And for those of you trying to get business today, that's what you should just play it on your phone to whoever you're pitching.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Bruh.
Is he going to make it? Is he going to make the college football playoff?
I haven't looked at their schedule, my man.
They got Ohio State. They got Michigan.
Well, that's a
this
one
week.
loss.
They got Michigan this week.
Well, Michigan's not any good.
They're not. Ohio State the week after.
But they still have enough players to beat in Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
As we have watched, even the good teams, Georgia,
Sure.
Bama, LSU, Texas, everybody's flawed. Ole Miss is a good team. I don't think they're in the tier that I'm referencing, but they're right there. They got a chance to prove otherwise this weekend. Those teams that are good are all flawed. Georgia, Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State. I give Ohio State credit. Jackson, they went to Penn State and won. I don't care how it looked. You just got to win. What Chip Kelly did in the second half to Penn State, you can say what you want about Chip Kelly as a recruiter, and it would be accurate. He's terrible. He doesn't want to recruit. He doesn't want to call your parents and tell them how awesome you are. He doesn't want to tell you how awesome you are. Doesn't give any that he wants the Ohio State machine and brand, and it can, just to bring him players, and then he's going to coach them. But what he did on Saturday in that running game, and that's what makes him so special. The Shanahans in the NFL and Detroit Lions, what they're doing, holy smokes. And what Chip Kelly did, damn. I mean, they're just some guys who can just, as the game unfolds, they're just better than you as a play caller. And Penn State still hasn't won a big game since October 16th, 2016. I'm sorry, October 22nd, 2016.
Yeah.
They are giving Notre Dame a run for their money. Hold my Tito's and soda on, program that's hyped year in, year out that doesn't ever beat anybody. But I did think about my road trip with Charles Porter Jeffries and Kemp Poole when we went up to Ohio State, Penn State, and had one of the best road trips I've ever had in my life. Tom Luganbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line at 8:30. Jackson just called Tom Luganville, I guess, just to say hello. I was like, hey, man, we're not getting him on until 8:30. He went, oh, yeah. He's locked into Mistletoe. Missile Tatas and Jackson Meadows. Jackson, Mississippi will never be the same. Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show. I'd like to know if you're going to Mistletoe. By the way, I think it's a wonderful event. I hope you go. Tell me great stories from it, whatever. Take a bunch of shots of Tito's or Fireball and, make an ass of yourself and let's get some video share stories. And let us know if you're going on the Stella Artois text line 601-885-3776. Also, Twitter handle @BoBounds, brought to you by Superior Foundation. If you need French drains or foundation work, superior.ms. Call Todd Sandridge right now or text him. That's what I like about Todd's like, man, if people want to text us, we will get with them because, sometimes you don't want to call, so on. But Todd's number, 601-941-9500. If you need French drains or foundation work, you can text Todd Sandridge with Superior Foundation right now. By the way, their turnaround on an estimate's 48 hours or less. The competition, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 48 hours or less. Also, family-owned. Also, their work comes with a warranty. Superior Foundation. All right. Jackson Meadows?
I have a question.
Yeah, man.
All right. If Ole Miss and Indiana lined up today, where's the line at?
On a neutral field.
On a neutral field. I just want to gauge.
It's a good question.
Just to see.
Ole Miss by...
They are favored, though, right?
I don't know, Meta. What do you think, Jackson?
Ole
Miss by 5?
I was 2.5, 3 probably. 5's I mean
5, 6.
I would go 5.
Okay,
I'd feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, let's say they met halfway, Nashville, and I don't know because I don't know what halfway is, but let's just go halfway between Oxford and Bloomington, Indiana. I'm going Ole Miss by 6.
I like that.
Maybe more, but I'm going by 6.
Ole Miss, BYU around.
Look, Ole Miss has better athletes.
They do.
Now, I don't want to I don't want to say that Indiana doesn't have some good athletes. You don't win this many games on smoke and. Please understand, they're not winning this many games on smoke and mirrors. They got a good football team. They're well coached.
Right.
But Ole Miss has better athletes. Walter Nolan, Jackson Dart. If Trey Harris plays this weekend.
Yeah.
Jordan Watkins hadn't really done what you thought he would do the last 2 years, but coming off an unbelievable game. You look at the Ole Miss front seven, Indiana would have some problems. But they're physical, man. Kurt Signetti plays typical Midwest Big Ten football. I'm not just saying that because he's at Indiana. And look, he's been at Alabama. He knows how Saban did it.
Right.
He got to see it for 4 years. They faced LSU and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and other teams while they were winning. This guy he's one of the best football coaches walking the planet. If you start by talking about Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Dan Campbell, Kirby Smart, there's some others. Kurt Signetti is one of the best. He's in the 1%. What everybody strives for, whether you're a teacher, an architect, a salesman, a physician, whatever you do. He's in the top 1%. He's that good. This is not smoke and mirrors. He has been a head coach for well over a decade, and he's won an insane amount of games.
Yes.
At places that don't win.
Reason I ask, we talked about the college football playoff odds briefly, and there are teams in front of Ole Miss that I do believe Ole Miss is better than.
Give our listeners, you pulled that up this morning. I thought that was interesting before the show because you wanted to see where they were as we go into the first college football playoff rankings tomorrow. We also have something called a presidential election and other elections. We want you to go vote. Go vote. tomorrow. There'll be local elections that matter, and a few state. It's not a huge year state wise, but it's every election counts, just like every game counts.
Sure.
And then of course the big boy, the presidential election. Give me the odds that you were referencing before the show.
So we were looking at the odds of this is odds of team to just make it.
Yeah.
They just got to make it.
Just make it. Well, that's all you got to do.
That's it. Favorites to make the 12-team college football playoff after week 10. Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Miami.
Hold on, you went too fast.
Sorry.
Slow down. All right, start off with the number. Go slow.
We're going to go Ohio
First
State.
five.
Ohio State, number 1.
Okay.
All right, at plus 350.
Huge win this weekend.
Big time. Georgia plus 400 at number 2.
Big win for them this weekend.
Oregon still sitting up there, plus 450. Texas plus 550.
Yeah.
Odds double here and go to Miami plus 1100.
Wow.
You got Alabama plus 1800, Tennessee plus 1800.
Wow.
Penn State plus 22, Notre Dame plus 3000. Ole Miss at number 10 plus 3500. This is to win it all.
Okay.
That's to win it all. So they still have Ole Miss at number 10 to win it all. Now,
Got it.
That would obviously account for a win this weekend.
Yeah, if they win, they're still in it. And if they don't, they're out.
Okay, so how do you feel about if they win? If they win, where are you at on Ole Miss as a football team? Are they a college football playoff?
I don't know yet because I don't know what everybody else is going to do. I don't think it's guaranteed. Look, they got to win. I do not think it's guaranteed if they win that they're in. Because Jackson, there's going to be a lot of competition between two lost teams, and it's going to be who you beat and who you lost to. But they're still alive.
Who you beat? There's not a top 25 win on the schedule.
No, it'll be Georgia if they win this weekend. They'll have one. Florida will not be in the top 25, and obviously Mississippi State is the worst team in the Southeastern Conference this year. So neither one of those teams will count as a T25 win, is what you're referencing.
So, I mean,
for the committee.
If it does play out the way ideally and they do take that dub, you're talking about one top 25 win and two non-top 25 losses?
What they've got to root for, what you and I talked about earlier, is they have to root for South Carolina to win out.
And to sneak in.
And to be in the top 25 so that they would have two top 25 wins, one against Georgia and one against South Carolina.
Gotcha.
See, South Carolina plays at Vanderbilt this weekend. Then they host Missouri. Then they play Wofford. But then they go to Clemson.
Okay.
And I know that Clemson lost this weekend, but if South Carolina drops one more game, they're not going to be in the top 25.
No. That is a runnable schedule.
So it is.
It's a 3-1 schedule.
So what Ole Miss has to hope is South Carolina runs the table. At Vandy and at Clemson with Missouri at home.
LSU
Can they do it? Yeah.
Loss.
Do I think they will? No. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they go to Clemson and win.
Wow. We got a good text in from Blue Man referencing the Indiana deal.
Yeah.
Indiana and Michigan. Indiana's currently favored by 14.5. Prior to the start of the year, Michigan was favored by 10.
24.5-point swing?
That's a swing.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
That is a huge swing.
Michigan cannot complete a forward pass. Mississippi State is better on offense than Michigan. With a backup with a backup now starter as a true freshman.
That's true.
And now Michigan on defense is light years better than Mississippi State, but anyway, good Lord. Tom Luganbill coming up next on the Out of Bounds Show. Brought to you by the Armory in Ridgeland, Lake Harbor. For all your firearms, suppressors, and optics, the Armory, Lake Harbor in Ridgeland in front of Kroger. Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Rocky Patel will be at Spring Street Cigars in Hattiesburg this Friday. Rocky Patel Cigars. I don't know how many top fives he's had in Cigar Aficionado, but last year his cigar was ranked number 2 in Cigar Aficionado. So Rocky Patel will be in Hattiesburg at Spring Street Cigars on Friday, and he'll be there at 5 o'clock. And we interviewed him 2 years ago when they opened Spring Street Cigars in Starkville, which is a beautiful, beautiful cigar lounge. 2 floors, hardwood floors, exposed brick, 30-foot ceilings, 2 bars, 2 humidors. And I got to interview him that day, and he's a big Wisconsin Badger fan. He went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he has season tickets to the Green Bay Packers because Aaron Rodgers had just lost in the playoffs. So he wasn't happy about that. He thought he was going to be going back to Green Bay, and he wasn't. But Rocky Patel, Spring Street Cigars in Hattiesburg, 5 o'clock Friday. Hope to see you there. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We welcome in Tom Luganville, National College Football Analyst with ESPN. And he joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Lugs, I don't even know where to go with how crazy college football is this year.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It really is.
This is what we wanted, right? We are now in a scenario of college football where just look at this weekend. You could be looking at 2 absolute elimination games that include, 3 blue bloods? You got Alabama and LSU playing. You got Ole Miss. You got Georgia playing. And the loser is likely out from a playoff spot. And this is where we are in the first week of November. It's incredible.
It is. I don't even – who's the best team in the country right now?
Hold on a second. My dogs are mad because they think it's Oregon, and I don't know if I'm convinced of it.
I'm not either, by the way.
Listen, here's what I would say about the number 1 team in the country. Am I convinced it's Oregon? No, but I am convinced that from week 1 until now, they have shown the most consistency of performance and the most improvement. Like they haven't flashed many flaws. I think we've seen a lot of flaws from people, Bo, in college football, and amongst really good teams. I mean, Georgia can't stop turning the ball over, right? Alabama's been undisciplined and sloppy. You've got, Texas has shown some warts. Clemson just lost at home at night for the first time since 2013 to Louisville. All right. I mean, look at some of these high profile. I mean, Penn State just lost at home after an abysmal offensive performance inside the 5-yard line, not once but twice. Right. So Michigan's down. This is one of those years where I don't know if there's a big gap between, let's just say, Oregon and Ohio State and whoever you want to throw in the top 3 to 4 to 5. I don't know if there's as big a gap between them as there is everybody else, and usually it's pretty wide.
Okay, so I have Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. I still don't know what know what to do with.
Georgia's the number 1 team in the country?
No, I'm just saying this group.
Oh,
I think Georgia can still win it and beat all the teams that I just referenced and you referenced.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if I trust anybody, but I even with Carson Beck throwing picks, I still kind of lean on that defense, Luke. Like when it absolutely counts. You know what I'm saying? Like 2 or 3 possessions in the second half. Obviously, they could be tested this weekend, but 2 or 3 possessions in the second half. I just lean on Georgia in that offense, even if Beck is throwing picks. But the next direction I was going to go is I'm still not ready to totally trust Miami, even though they're finding ways to win. Luke?
Yeah, again, you look at these teams that are really good and that are playing pretty good, and you sit there and you say, okay, well, if Miami played Oregon right now, what would happen, right? Yeah. Or if Miami played Ohio State right now, what would happen? And I don't think there's a good, clear answer.
No. Tom Luganville with ESPN on the Out of Bounds show. So every week is a standalone week, and that's hard for, I think, any of us. You and I are in the business. Obviously, you know the game much better as an analyst, but I'm asked to pontificate on it and bring on people like you, and then as fans, I think it's virtually impossible, Luke, to really wrap our brain around that. Whatever happened last weekend, really for the most part, has no bearing on the next weekend because every weekend is standalone. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, ask Texas A&M.
Exactly.
Talk about a team that was basking in the glow and thinking they'd arrived, and they go on the road and get their ass handed to them. And, you know, I just think that the competitive balance, likely because of the transactional nature of college football right now, is greater than it's ever been. And everybody is vulnerable to some degree. Now, are there going to be teams that you sit there and say, okay, this team's just flat out better than that team on any given week? Yeah. But what we've seen so far is when you see that or say that, the better team finds a way to screw it up.
Right.
Like, you know, just like Alabama has. Like Georgia. Listen, I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here, but it's bad when you look at Georgia, all right, outside of the Texas game in the second half versus Alabama in the second half versus Clemson, Georgia hasn't played very good. And the other day, if TJ Lagway doesn't get hurt, I think they lose because Florida was pushing Georgia around. And on another note, Billy Napier's actually done a hell of a job with that team.
He has.
That team has improved significantly. The schedule's brutal. Everybody in that locker room has had every chance to pack it in and fold their chair and go home, and they haven't done it. They're playing hard. They've improved vastly on defense. And again, if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt, the way they were playing on Saturday, I mean, I don't know whose dog Billy Napier kicked, but nobody deserves to have to play in a cocktail party with a walk-on from Yale.
It did look like they got him run off Frat Row. And it looked like he was drinking beer with his buddies, and then they went up in the stands and said, hey, dude, you got to finish the game.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable.
Do you know the extent of Lagway's injury, Luke's?
I don't. From what I saw, and I'm just saying in my experience, what I saw when he held it and he was physically incapable of standing, I've seen those before from a hamstring perspective. And what you hope is it's not one of those detached from the bone hamstring things. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's one thing to pull a hamstring and get this and that, and you get up, you kind of hobble off. They had to bring out a cart. And it looked so benign when he went down.
It did.
Like anything had happened, but he immediately grabbed it, and he couldn't stand.
It was
it's
wild.
Such a shame because he's starting to make progress, and he's a good player, and he's going to be a very, very good player. But, I mean, to have that happen in that moment when you've got the momentum and you're playing really good. But again, not to get off point, but I was referencing Georgia there. You know, there's too many teams with good players that aren't playing good football this year. I think more so than I can remember in recent memory.
All right, Tom Luganville on the Out of Bounds show. Let's do some rapid fire here. We got to start with our game of the week in state, and then we'll go to Baton Rouge. So you mentioned Georgia going to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is coming off an amazing weekend where they throttled Arkansas. Jackson Dart, a record-setting day.
Yep.
Like you said, Georgia is coming off Carson Beck throwing 3 picks, and they had to do what they had to do in the second half to win the game. Now, Ole Miss can't run the football, and Henry Parrish is out.
Right.
So, having said that, Georgia at Ole Miss, let's start first with the Ole Miss offense against Kirby Smart and I guess Shulman or whatever's defense. If Ole Miss can't run the football, what's the path, or how does this look to you, Luke's?
I think the path is explosive. You're if you can't run the football, it's hard to sustain drives, right? So I think they're going to have to come up with ways to get 15, 20, 30-yard chunk plays that flip the field and put them in position to score. Because I just think for anybody, not just Ole Miss, but if you can't effectively or consistently run the ball, and then also that impacts, as we've talked about before, that also impacts your ability to go fast, which we know Ole Miss wants to do as often as they possibly can. Well, if you can't run the ball and you can't get first downs, it slows you down, and that's not the mode of operation that Ole Miss wants to be in.
Okay, so it's all on if Trey Harris is back, but it's kind of all on Dart, Prescorn, Jordan Watkins, and possibly Trey Harris to move the ball against, and they could be one-dimensional.
Yeah, they could be, and they may have to be. You know, I mean, and then you got to put some of the onus on Georgia too to actually perform. You know, like I said, if there was a time for Ole Miss to get Georgia, this is it, because Georgia has done so many things that most teams would lose a game as a result of, that they haven't lost because they've been able to compensate with talent. So if you're going to have a shot, this is probably the moment you've got to have it.
All right, let's flip it. Tom Luganville with ESPN on the Out of Bounds Show. Pete Golding and the Ole Miss defense going against Bobo and Carson Beck and the Georgia offense.
Well, listen, I think that Georgia is throwing the football way too much. Georgia is not a team that wants to throw it 50 times, 45 times, even 40 times a game. And the way that Carson Beck is playing and how irresponsible he has been valuing the football should be super concerning, obviously, but it could end up being something fantastic for Ole Miss, because the reality is Georgia hasn't run the football well either. Talking about Ole Miss not running it well, Georgia hasn't run it well. I think that's prompted them to have to throw it more than they'd like. And the offensive line play for Georgia has not been what obviously they would expect, but I think what any of us thought that it would or could be. And if you're looking at Ole Miss and why they went out in the offseason and made the moves that they made in the transfer portal, this is an opportunity for that Ole Miss defensive front to tee off a little bit, see what they got in them.
All right, I think the defenses could rule the day here in Oxford, and it could be.
It could.
I think it could be extremely difficult to move it up and down the field for both offenses. The line's 2.5. So bottom line, who do you like in the game?
I probably would say Georgia, but my reason is I guess somewhat weird. Until Ole Miss can prove that they belong with the big boys by routinely beating the big boys, because a lot of our talk with Ole Miss, right, is they've loaded up through the transfer portal, through recruiting, to build a roster that, and Nick Saban said this, I think, on the first or second week of game day, is, you know, Ole Miss has always had the skill to match up with us. Where they couldn't compete was up front on both sides of the ball. And he wasn't wrong. He's right there. But now you got to take that. You actually got to make it happen. And we haven't seen that yet from Ole Miss. And so until we do, I kind of tend to lean towards Georgia.
Yeah. All right. So in the line of scrimmage, even though Ole Miss's front seven on defense has played really well, in the line of scrimmage, you give Georgia a slight edge or a little bit more edge than that?
With Georgia's defensive front?
No, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, probably Georgia slightly, but not much. Again, I think this game in particular, like I said, because of the way Georgia's playing, this is the opportunity for Ole Miss. They gotta, and let me tell you something. If Georgia hands them some gifts, which Georgia has done versus just about every opponent they've played this year, then Ole Miss has to capitalize on those gifts. Like, you can't have Carson Beck throw 3 picks and come away with 3 points.
Right.
Make sense?
Is he just not as good? Is Carson Beck just not as good as we thought he was? Or is it because those two guys are in the NFL? One is a receiver, one is a tight end with Brock Bowers, and what's his name, McConkey? Are playing big-time football with the Chargers and the Raiders. And they just, you can't especially Bowers, who's a generational player. How would you frame that up?
I don't think the personnel has been as good around him, and that's fine. But it's better than what the vast majority of college football is playing with. It's the quarterback position. So I think there's plenty there. But I also think, Bo, that with the off season of hype and anticipation, the overexposure on social media, the TikTok stuff, he's got to start backing away, I think, from some of the stuff that doesn't matter and start refocusing and recalibrating on what it takes to be a great football player. Because I just think that to some degree he's too caught up in being Carson Beck.
That's right. He's dating that celebrity, the women's basketball player who transferred from Miami maybe to TCU and then transferred back, and they're TikTok and Instagram stars, and maybe he's caught up in some of that. Okay, fair enough. He was 25 of 40, 309, 2 TDs, and 3 picks against.
And he made some nice plays.
Yeah.
He made some nice plays, especially late, but by that time he didn't need to because Florida couldn't function on offense.
Okay, as far as Georgia's running game, Nate Frazier is a back that
freshman
looks pretty good for them. And then that was really, I mean, they've got a Dylan Bell and an ETN from Florida who only did 7 carries for 31 yards. So how would you?
They're not running the ball well, man.
No. Neither team.
They're like Ole Miss. I'm telling you, it's very similar. Neither team is running the football well. But when I say that, because of that, I think Ole Miss is more equipped to be one-dimensional in the pass game because they're more accustomed to that than Georgia is.
Okay.
I think Georgia at their core wants to run a power spread, run the football, come off of play action, take shots, and just press repeat. Just do that on a loop. And the fact that they can't effectively run the football takes them completely out of their play action game and makes them more of a drop back team. And I don't think that's what they want to be.
Okay. Oh, man. So neither team's running the ball well. And both defenses can get after you. This could be a wild one in Oxford this weekend. Tom Luganbill on the Out of Bounds Show with ESPN. All right, let's keep going through. Bama at LSU. Both teams have been disappointed this year, and then they both have some big wins. This is another college football playoff elimination game. It's under the lights in Death Valley. What is the biggest thing you're looking at as far as this matchup this weekend?
I'm looking to see if Alabama can eliminate the pre-snap penalties, the misalignment, the sloppy, undisciplined nature of their play that's taking away from their overall talent. Because they're good enough to overcome that stuff against most people. They're not good enough to overcome it each and every week. And we've seen way too much of it. And you're going on the road in Baton Rouge, you know that environment. You can't do that and have 12 penalties. You can't do that and do what they did against Tennessee on the road. You're going to lose. And so I think it's the nature of how Alabama plays. If Alabama plays clean, Alabama wins the game, even though it's on the road, in my opinion. If they don't, though, because LSU is so explosive and talented in the passing game with their quarterback, then it's going to be a dogfight. I think the other thing to look for is Jalen Milroe, for whatever reason, has been just ever so slightly off in the last 2 to 3 weeks on throws to intermediate levels of the field where he's got a guy that's got a step, but he doesn't throw it out in front of him. Instead, he throws it low, or instead he throws it behind. And now all of a sudden it allows for the defender to close on the ball, or it forces the receiver to make an adjustment. And I think it's really hindered their ability to create explosive plays. And if Jalen Milroe is not consistently accurate with ball placement and does that again, then you're not going to get the explosive plays that Kalen DeBoer wants in that offense. And that has manifested itself pretty well over the last couple of weeks.
All right, Diego Pavia goes down and beats Hugh Freeze for the 3rd year in a row. He beat him at Liberty 2 years ago. He beat him last year with New Mexico State. I mean, both times with New Mexico State, different teams.
Yeah.
And then now he takes Vanderbilt down, and Vanderbilt in the line of scrimmage, holy smokes, and Diego made a few plays because he's just a dude. Can you imagine how much Auburn is going to be willing to pay for a quarterback in the portal in the offseason? Because DJ Durkin's done a hell of a job on the defensive side, Luke's.
Yeah, they're pretty good on defense, and I was a little surprised, and I'm not taking anything away from Vanderbilt because I think Vanderbilt's pretty good in this area, but Vanderbilt beat Auburn up front. I mean, Auburn couldn't run the football. Jarquez Hunter was non-existent, 12 total carries for 50 yards. Vanderbilt's pretty good. I'm going to be interested to see what the College Football Playoff Committee does with them. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like 24-25 by tomorrow night. That's going to be interesting. By the way, here's a fun nugget for you. Hugh Freeze now has, at the same point of his career at Auburn, a worse record than Brian Harsin.
Yeah. I cannot believe he made the mistake of running it back with Peyton Thorne. Okay, South Carolina. I just can't. South Carolina coming off a huge win over A&M. Vanderbilt coming off a huge win over Auburn. Which team can reset? South Carolina at Vandy. What do you think?
So I think Carolina cannot afford to go into the Vandy game and be riding a euphoric high that could cost them the game, because that's what Texas A&M did. Texas A&M's patting themselves on the back. They arrived. They just beat LSU. Now we're going to go out and we're heading to Atlanta, and then you get your butt kicked by South Carolina. I think South Carolina has a little bit too much of a blue collar mentality to fall into that trap. But the thing is, you're going against a team in Vanderbilt that every single week knows that everybody's doubting them, nobody believes in them, and they just seem to be fueled by it. I mean, it's like it's their gasoline. And I think this is going to be a fantastic football game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a one-possession game going into midway through the fourth quarter, right? I do think Lenora Sellers has to make a few more plays in the passing game. We know South Carolina can run it. We know that Vanderbilt can run it. Which quarterback creates some explosive plays in the passing game, Pavia or Lenora Sellers? Okay.
Sellers versus Pavia this week. Who knew that would actually be a game that people would be –
what a great game.
Yeah, interested in. I know the marquee really – I know Baton Rouge and Oxford will get, all the headlines, but this could be one hell of a football game. All right, where are you this week?
I get to see if Pitt can rebound after SMU throttled them on Saturday night. I was not expecting that.
Wow.
That was an absolute beatdown. That's another team that's going to be interesting to see what the committee does with SMU, because right now their only loss, SMU's only loss, is to BYU by 3 points.
Damn, it's because we had Casey Woods on the show before the year. Unbelievable.
Casey's a great dude.
He is a good dude. Okay, yeah, we had a listener. They were at the Pitt SMU game this past weekend. Rhett Lashley, unbelievable. All right, Lugs, have a great week. Yeah. We appreciate it, buddy.
All right, buddy. See you.
The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by the Men's Clinic in Madison and the Men's Clinic in Brandon. And testosterone replacement is powered by the Men's Clinic in Madison and Brandon, themanthing.com.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
You ready?
Let's go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live in the Bank Plus studio, where college football meets the all lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds, streaming around the world live at the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
Where Are You?
The Zone.
Man, oh man. Good morning, good morning. Welcome in to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, brought to you by the Armory. Lake Harbor in Ridgeland for all your firearms, suppressors, and optics. The Armory, Lake Harbor in Ridgeland. Beautiful building, was a bank, converted it to the Armory. Firearms, suppressors, optics. The Armory, Lake Harbor and Ridgeland. Show is also brought to you by Southern Ag Credit, financing life outside the city limits. Southern Ag Credit in Ridgeland, southernagcredit.com. Thought Lugan Bill was really good, giving us his insight and commentary and analysis on Georgia at Ole Miss. Neither one has run the football real well. Now, Lane said Henry Parrish is out, but you don't ever know. Kind of made that statement with Trey Harris a couple weeks ago. He played, but he kind of shot back real quick. He's out, so we'll see how that looks for Ole Miss this weekend. Let's see. Wow, if Ole Miss plays like they did Saturday, the field will be rushed and Georgia will get paid $250,000.
Does Georgia get paid for that, or does the SEC get paid for that?
I'm pretty sure the SEC gets paid
let's go
for
with
that.
Regardless, they're not paying $250.
Yeah.
You got to win for that to happen.
Well, this is a different team than what happened last weekend. So we'll see. Georgia's win over Florida on Saturday. Let's go back to the Stella Artois text line. Georgia's win over Florida on Saturday means that the Bulldogs have won 48 straight games against teams not named Alabama. This dates all the way back to November 7th, 2020, when Georgia lost to Florida 44-28. Was that 2020 when Dan beat Georgia? I thought he beat him in 2019. Okay. Anyway, that may be right. I don't know that for sure, but if you say it is, then that's from 3 Hump Campbell. I knew Mullen beat Smart in his year 1 or not year 1, year 2 or year 3.
Right.
And that was Kyle Trask and Pitts. And he got him early because there were other people who do what I do that said that he would never beat Kirby. And he did early. So, boom. Dennis Allen is gone. All right. So I did not see that on the Twitters, but we will take a look at that.
No way.
And there you go. Dennis Allen is done. So the Saints will be, we already knew he was gone, but the Saints will be in the market for a new coach. I don't think Mike McCarthy makes it either. I don't think so, but Jerry Jones stayed with Jason. Now, granted, he got emotional, thought Jerry was Jason Garrett was family. Jerry kept Jason Garrett for 10 years. Say that out loud. That's hard to believe. Okay, the news of Dennis Allen's firing broke just before the Saints had a scheduled team meeting at their Metairie headquarters.
Yeah.
All right.
So it broke at about 8:57 because they had a meeting at 9.
Okay.
Shefty.
And they let go of Dennis Allen. He's going to make a lot of money. He already made a lot of money, and then he'll make a lot of money on his contract.
Sure will.
I don't know why they signed him to that kind of contract, but I guess in the end, well, I mean, college football does it. The NFL has a lot. I mean, these teams are making what, $600 to $800 million a year. So anyway, Miss Benson's maybe not going to miss it, but you know, as the direct deposit goes out every month, she may at least look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't remember what they owe him. Jeff Duncan told us an insane number last year. I think it was right at $20 million, which made no sense to me, but so it may be, I don't know, maybe in the 10 to 15 range, or it still may be that high. But Dennis Allen is out for the Saints, and they lost to the Carolina Panthers 23-22. And the teams that had done everything that the Saints did on Sunday, as far as rushing yards and turnovers and everything else, were 275-0. And then the Saints decided to say, hold my Stella Artois, we can do this. Saints outgained the Panthers by 150-plus yards, ran for 150-plus yards, and won the turnover battle. Over the last 20 years, teams had gone 275-0 with that formula. The Saints made it 275-1 after losing to the Carolina Panthers. Also,
who do you get?
What?
Who do you go get?
Well, it's going to be the Ben Johnson sweepstakes, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
And there'll be a couple other hot names. I do think that they'll go offense. And I'll just have to kind of peek around, you know, who's Shanahan's next guy, who's
Are they going to call him? Are they going to call Bill?
Who? Bill Belichick?
Belichick.
No.
They're not going to call him,
I don't think you can do that. Nobody wants to deal with that.
Right.
You know, he wants, and I don't blame him on this side, but he wants a lot of power and the shop for the groceries, and Mickey Loomis is not going to allow them to do that. So the text line, 601-885-3776. Twitter handle, @BoBounds, brought to you by Superior Foundation. Do you need French drains or foundation repairs? Call Superior Foundation today. And then the Mac Hike Ford caller line, 601-707-3750. Also, officially one of the funniest things in college football history, Hugh Freeze's 2022 Liberty team lost to Diego Pavia from when he was at New Mexico State, 49-14. Freeze's 2023 Auburn team lost 31-10 against Pavia's New Mexico State team. And Freeze's 2024 Auburn team lost to Pavia and Vanderbilt on Saturday, 17-7. Average spread of the three road upsets, 19 points. 19 points. So there you go. And evidently Emmitt Smith's daughter went to Georgia because Emmitt Smith was seen with a Georgia Bulldogs. I think she went to Georgia. Unbelievable. I mean,
one of them he may have multiple. One of them went to A&M. She was a big-time soccer player at A&M.
oh, that's cool. I think
He's
Emmitt
got multiple.
Oh, he does. He has several daughters, maybe sons. He's made a fortune off the field post Cowboys career. He kind of took the Roger Staubach path. Obviously, Staubach, he may be a billionaire. If not, he's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions. But Emmitt's been unbelievable as a businessman, and Roger Staubach was one of his mentors. We are the Out of Bounds Show, and we're brought to you by RPT and Rick's Pro Truck. For your next toolbox for your truck or lift kit, that's powered by Rick's Pro Truck in Gluckstadt.